Everybody say it mean.
Who's that out there living the dream? Let's blow in the bean. Who's that still smoking all that green? Let's blow in the bean. Come on, y'all, let me hear you scream. Let's blow in the bean. Let's blow in the bean. Let's blow in the bean. Go.
Let's blow in the bean. Welcome back, y'all. So, how's everyone been? It's definitely been a little slow, some might say, as far as fights are happening, but I feel like I've been captivated with all of the other combat sports going on. There's been a couple boxing bouts, a lot of real world stuff that's just been happening. It's been busy times, and UFC's got to get on it, because I'm almost forgetting about that card that's about to come up with George Masvidal.
Oh my gosh.
I cannot wait for this 211 to... I mean, is it 211?
Yeah.
I cannot wait for it. We got another weekend off of fights,
there's other
guys.
fight too, Garbrandt. No, wait, that's not yet.
Yeah, no, that's
there's
not
something
yet.
else happening. There's another big fight on that card.
There's
That's
quite a
good
few.
enough.
We went over the entire main card, and they could all be main
events. It
events.
seems like forever ago.
Already, right? So, any interesting topics that you've gotten into over the week since we've last been on air?
Matt Serra confirms that Dillashaw versus Garbrandt KO tape is real.
Oh shit, I didn't hear that. I feel like there's been enough people that have said it's real that I believed it prior to Matt Serra. So, it's just more, when are they gonna, I personally, my theory on when it's gonna show is gonna be fight week. The week of the fight, because that's when it's gonna affect the fighter the most, being TJ. Where if they show it now, he'll have time to recuperate mentally, get his head back in the game. Where if they do it the day before the fight, the week before the fight, it's a good talking points
I don't
and it's
think
a
it ever
remembrance.
shows.
Ooh.
I don't think it ever shows. I do think it exists.
Yeah,
But I don't think it ever shows. I think Uriah Faber has been in the fight game too long to let a tape like that.
It's an unclassy thing to do. But I feel like I've also seen a guy in a podcast situation on their YouTube stream that their gym buddy who has the footage showed, and Uriah Faber was sitting next to him, and he's like, oh, what should we do? And they asked Uriah, what should we do? And Uriah was like, you do what you want, that's your video. I feel like Uriah has taken that stance with it, and the guy has, for whatever reasons, been like, but I feel like Uriah, in the back when the camera, he's smart. He's known how to play those cameras more so than anybody ever has. That in the back, he tells this guy, obviously, I'm pulling the strings here. Uriah has been a mastermind, and I feel like this feud that's been going on the show and everything, as much as people are jumping on TJ's side, TJ has also come back and said a lot of things that a lot of other people have also substantiated, that, hey, there's only making the team better, and sometimes you can't take as much.
Have you been watching this season?
Oh, I've been loving it. I've been loving
what
it.
Do you I was going to ask what you thought so far.
I love every single story. I love how they're playing any other stuff, because I know the fighters.
If you were on a team, which team would you want to be on?
TJ's. I think they both are doing great stuff, but so far, and it's only been 2 episodes, the third one's coming out tomorrow. And
I'm hoping tonight.
I think tonight.
I watched the last 2 after the podcast last week.
Good.
Because I looked and I was like, ooh, there's 2. I thought there was only going to be 1. So.
Oh, nice. And we know what comes with a lot of these fighters, so I love that they briefly talk on their history in the UFC, and then they go into more of their real life situation, what's going on at home. Makes it more realistic, and it's interesting. I like the aspect. I could see how this is hard to do for prospects, because you are making all the brand new footage for prospects. You're essentially building their narrative, where these old guys have so many twists and turns in their life already that come in that they just can highlight them and really make a good show. And I feel like they have been doing a good show. I really recommend it. If you're listening to this, you're probably watching, and let us know what's your favorite part of the season so far. I'm not the biggest fan of these choke grabs and all that. I really enjoyed.
That's not professional.
Agreed.
You know what? When I came into it, I was like, I would want to be on Cody's team all day. all day, all day, all day. And then as it went on, I didn't agree with the picks that he made. I thought they were crazy. And so I was like, he didn't do any research. He's going to do this minute interview. Like, I'm going to go with my gut. I'm just going to go with my gut on all these guys. And this minute long interview of these questions that I ask. And I thought that was crazy. But I actually I've never been a TJ Dillashaw fan.
Oh,
but
wow.
I think he's a great coach.
Yeah.
I think he's a great coach.
Yeah, natural.
Like, yeah, he just seems really good at it. And I'm like, I think he would be a better coach. He's proved to be a better coach. I haven't seen Cody really coach.
The interesting thing
Cody
with
seems
that
like
is,
a good hype man.
how much can these guys really learn in a 6-week span when they've had 20 years of experience and UFC experience? So
it's not, I think at the point where they get to the guys, they know so much. It's like the guys
game
at
plan.
Dillashaw and Cody's level, they're with like a precision tool. Just tightening parts.
Right.
They look at their whole game and they're like, if I were watching you from the outside, I'd say you're a guy with a strong ground game and you need to work on your stand-up. Let me watch your stand-up for a minute. Oh, here's what you should do. So how he was showing guys in the ring, like, oh, you're this kind of guy, you need to go in with this kind of takedown. And it worked, like a little game plan, like the move he showed him, and he's like, you need to get off that one knee thing.
Yep.
You know, like, I thought he was taking guys that are great at what they do and make them UFC level at what they do. And I don't, not that they haven't been with great coaches, but that one-on-one time, I don't know.
Not that I know any Team Alpha Male guys, but I do seem to think that with the way that they're portraying the show and the way things are, that if you're Team Alpha Male, you kind of think like Team Alpha Male, and they have their own thought process and processes, and I feel like TJ showing why he maybe might have also got out of the whole Alpha Male thing, because he thinks a little differently, and you can see it in, again, some of his coaching. And what was interesting on a podcast earlier in the week, TJ was actually saying that he was really starting to run a lot of the classes, and he wasn't being compensated for it. He was also still doing a lot of other stuff, but they were just essentially putting a bunch of work on him, because naturally you can see that he can teach.
And he feels like he's the best at everything and probably is the best at a lot of things.
Right. I would agree with that. And him and Dwayne created a connection and bond, and people, Uriah Faber specifically, was just kind of felt like he was getting shown up in his own gym. And again, I can't wait for the next episode. I think that the game plans are really playing into it.
And I picture him at home studying each of these fighters and really doing his research on the guys and picking apart them and seeing what they're good at and taking notes and doing whatever. And he seems like a smart guy. So by the time he gets the one-on-one time with them to train him, he already saw their holes. And he's like, here's your holes, so you don't want this to happen.
Right.
And we're going to work on a couple little techniques that maybe Dwayne or maybe other camps he's been to. Just experience at this point of like, I don't know.
Did you hear that TJ actually congratulated Cody Garbrandt on his recent engagement via Twitter?
He doesn't want to be a heel. That's the problem with TJ. It's like when you really don't want it. It's like Woodley doesn't want to be the heel.
Yeah.
He doesn't really want to be the heel. That's the why.
It's hard. It's hard to be disliked. Mike Perry doesn't give a damn. That's why he can do it. That's why he can do it.
Mike Perry is the first Ric Flair of the UFC.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Ric Flair loved being a heel, and he lost sometimes. Like, it just happened, and I feel like Mike Perry's going to lose sometimes, but he's going to have a long career for UFC. He's young, so.
Maybe with that fight style, though, like, he bangs.
He was patient in the last fight. He looked like he grew to me from his...
Oh, I would agree 100%. I would agree 100% that he definitely looked better in his last fight than he ever has, but he still took a good amount of damage from... I mean, Jake Ellenberger still has heavy hands regardless of his age, and power's the last thing to always go. Mike, the natural heel, the whole good and bad dynamic. Other guys that are starting to heel out or starting to take those cues I feel like that's the main talk that I've been hearing as of late, specifically with these guys on other podcasts, is
DC.
Another person
But he's
who's
somebody
embracing
that
it.
his finally.
Yes.
And so all of a sudden the embracement of the heel.
It makes me like him more, but I always liked him. But I always liked him, so.
I used to not. But him embracing his heelness and just, I respect the shit out of him.
Of course. You got to.
But I just think it made me like him more. I don't know if I ever disliked him, but it definitely made me like him more. And I think embracing the heel is what you have to do, and then it'll go away. Once you embrace the heel, you get the cheers again.
Yep.
It's so crazy.
And
maybe embrace whatever. It's not just the heel.
So the talk with all this heel stuff, a perfect guy in the world of MMA right now who's really healing out and seeing the best of it all is Ali Akinta. He has been talking more shit on the UFC than any other fighter I can think of. Directly saying, fuck you, UFC, all this is bullshit. They didn't do me any favors. I'm on fucking probation. This is bullshit. I don't want to keep fighting. Like, off of a win, he's saying this. Most other fighters would have been cut by now. With this new management, I feel like the new management is seeing different things, and the thought process in the organization is changing a little bit, and I feel like maybe these bigger company is realizing that we can let these guys talk back because it's bringing in 10 times more viewers.
Well, they understand the wrestling.
Yeah, the show me aspect of it. The, hey, you got to do something. Because, for reals, back in the day, a guy would have said this, he would have just not been picked up for 2 years. He wouldn't have had a fight for 2 years. And Al's had his troubles with the UFC, but he's been really open even with the talks that he does have with the UFC, where he's like, well, when I trashed the room, this is what happened. And then he goes out and has been ranting on Twitter, just talking shit, and hasn't got a cease and desist from anybody. He's really open with his fans, and
what's he so
I
mad
love
about again? Because he didn't get the knockout of the night?
He didn't get, because he's been on probation since he told on camera, fuck you to the crowd because they booed him after split decisioning Jorge Masvidal, and then he trashed a room in Vegas, which UFC's out of Vegas. Like, it got back to the UFC, and he paid for it and everything, but he got fines. And when that happened, Lorenzo Fertitta and Dana White gave him a probation for 3 fights that he wasn't able to win any bonuses at all. It doesn't matter what you do. You can knock out everybody.
But his wasn't the best knockout of the night.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that 100%. And it wasn't, because now they're performance bonuses, and there was other people that performed way better than Ali Akinta as far as...
He had a great fight. Yeah. It was amazing.
But it was one way. It was one way. It was super fast against somebody who didn't look that great. I'd like to see the was Mike Perry Ellenberger on that? That's knockout of the night. That's knockout of the night.
That's what I mean. It wasn't.
But Perry took a lot of damage, but it was a fight. It wasn't just somebody walking over somebody in a minute and a half.
And it was a crazy cool knockout.
Oh, it was, agreed.
It wasn't just, Anyways, I'm not taking any. I love Iaquinta. I love his attitude. I think he has a cool personality. I think the UFC is silly for not investing in him.
The heelness right now.
I think the UFC is stupid, and I think they need to start investing in their talent. I know we can't drum it over their head.
With Watterson, Paige Van Zandt, fucking, who else did they sign? They signed a few other people, I think. Joe Van no, maybe not. Ronda Rousey. They've really picked winners so far.
Sage.
Is it? That might be true. Might be true.
Yeah, I love Conor. And he's a showman, and it's fun, but I don't want one Conor. I'd rather have 10, Not
necessarily Conors, but their own version of themselves, but outspoken.
But I want the UFC to pay, and they don't have to pay everyone Conor money, but pay the fighters what they're worth. And if they can't, let them wear their sponsors.
I know. I'm really, really, really,
and have
really
you noticed
interested.
Since the beginning of this deal, and how many emblems are now inside the ring? And the only fighters that are allowed to wear their sponsors are if that emblem is also inside the ring. So you see the monster a lot, and the UFC logo, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
now Reebok on everything.
I really am interested to see what's going to happen because we are coming up on that deadline, and whether the UFC under new management is going to choose to
They're losing talent.
continue that Reebok deal. And I hope that UFC has some sort of fan poll online that the fans can wade in, and that all fans come in droves and are just like, no deal, let them all go back to their sponsors. It benefits everybody. And then UFC can pay to just be on Ronda Rousey's top and bottom if they want to. That they just have to pay like everybody else.
And it makes more sense.
And all the way around, it's just been a thing we're going to keep hammering on until they change it. You better get your shit together, UFC. We're coming at you.
I know I just feel like they're losing talent slowly. It's slowly.
Oh,
it's a slow
agree.
leak of talent.
I agree.
But
totally
it'll
agree.
be like a dam, because if one of these agencies, these little weird MM agencies that are coming up of like the unions or whatever, if one of them works out, then things will change rather quickly. And I just feel like if the UFC let them wear their sponsors and made them true subcontractors, it would take all the need for the union talks out of the equation, at least for a big amount of time. Unless that's one of the things about the unions is wearing their sponsors again. They could be fighting for that. I don't know what's going on, but I don't think they know what's going on.
Yeah, I would agree with that. From what we've been hearing from people like Al and other fighters that are outspoken on what goes on in the back, we all love to hear it. And as far as sports, we're really privileged. A lot of other sports don't get the amount of availability that we get with our top level fighters. Like, how many football players do you regularly hear this? Like, wasn't Marshawn Lynch's? Oh, by the way, welcome to the Raiders, Marshawn Lynch. Whoop whoop. He would just be like, I'm not speaking to the press, or would have his line or whatever. Like, each one of our fighters is like, I want to get online. I want to talk to somebody. Get me on the radio, and I want to hear it. Like, I really love that about our sport, that I can listen from the horse's mouth what's going on in their camp, what's they've been doing, what they've been eating. They don't always
happens in all the other sports. We just don't
regularly. Oh fuck! It's just so boring.
I'm sure it happens because I just remember living in sports towns where
everyone knows what the Dodgers pitcher ate for the last 3 weeks.
And if we were on Twitter and added all these people from the Pirates to
I am living in my own world. Oh man, it is a small world.
The MMA. You know this.
Yeah. Any other topics in the MMA verse? Well, I got a few more, but what other ones did you bring to the table today, potentially?
Woodley confirmed a fight.
He's like 5 fights, and so is Bisping, and so is GSP, and so is Northcutt, and so is freaking CM Punk, and everybody's goddamn. What fight does he have? I haven't heard about this. So what's he confirming? That yes, I do have a fight?
Yeah, I guess they told him to be ready for a date. On Jim Norton, he said that. What
Ariel did get out of TJ, where I dislike Ariel as a person, but he is a master at his craft. He got TJ to sneak out by saying, oh, so we've all heard, but is it true that you and Cody were told that you're going to be the co-main event, but you still don't know what the main event is? And TJ was like, yeah, it's still the same as when I heard it. That had never been verified until Ariel just got that.
I have a prediction. Do you want to hear what my prediction?
Please.
If there's a main event.
That's what I was thinking. What you just said.
Here's the main event, people. I just saw it in my head. I'm a soothsayer. And everything's lining up for things that we've also revealed on the show of anything going on in the UFC. I think 170 for the belt, main event is going to be Tyron Woodley versus Robbie Lawler.
Damn, I was going to say, I love that. I think that's, it's a rematch. It's valid. I think Robbie hasn't been doing that USADA stuff, because remember that season that...
He had the weird USADA thing, and then he changed camps.
Yeah.
Right around time that you change camps if you needed to maybe
it's a
hone
rematch.
up on...
It's a direct rematch.
And he has been there so long that if you knew you were going to fight someone, and the UFC, Robbie Lawler's such a company man, they'd give him a head start.
Yeah.
That's how they roll.
Yeah.
So he'd know what type of fighter he was fighting. So then he goes to Orlando, which I think, who was just there in Orlando? Wasn't Sage and Tyron in Orlando for a period of time?
Yeah.
Fighting?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
Training.
what a perfect camp to go into right after Homeboy leaves.
It could work in the time frame. It could be a really good fight. I would want to watch it again. The first one kind of was a flash in the pan. It was
It's a
minute
big
long.
fight for Robbie to come back to.
It is. He hasn't fought since, so he could get a direct rematch of the champ. He did defend his title, I think, 4 or 5 times prior to him being defeated, and I love that. But do you want to hear my prediction? What I saw in my head when you were saying all the soothsaying talk? T Wood versus GSP. That would be the fucking fight. That's at 170. That's at the belt that he gave away. I think GSP got scared after he's like, fuck, Bisping's way too big for me. Once Bisping talked to him, GSP was like, fuck, I don't know, guys.
I don't know if I could... No, this is why I think you're right.
T Wood's a scarier fight, but
Here's
that's the fucking fight right there.
Here's why I think you might be right.
Yeah.
Because 170, I think GSP wants his last fight to be versus Conor McGregor. And I think watching him lately, I think he could get down to 155 if he needed to.
Oof.
But he couldn't do it from 185 and put enough muscle mass on to take on Bisping. But he could fight, and because he'd have to wait out this boxing thing, so he could take a fight, though, at 170. Because he's walking around at like 172, something crazy.
If there was a fight that I wouldn't want to fight, not that the reason I wouldn't want to fight Bisping, if I was George St. Pierre and I wouldn't want to fight Michael Bisping, I wouldn't want to fight him because of his sure size over me. Because he said it at the press conference, and it's the truth. That's what we said right away. Bisping's size because he's 200. Yeah.
Woodley walks around bigger than Michael Bisping.
I believe that is. I could see that as well. Either way, skill wise, I feel like GSP could take Bisping down if they were more bodily the same size. Where for Conor, GSP might be able to overpower him because he's so much bigger. He does cut down, even though Conor walks around more at GSP's natural weight as well. But I feel like Woodley would be the hardest fight because of the explosiveness that we've seen with Woodley, the great takedown defense, which is what GSP was. He was a takedown guy,
and GSP does not.
He can take down
to get hit.
Yeah, agreed. And against that power, but he could take down Bisping. You could see that happen, and he could take down Conor. You could see that happen. Who can you not see him take down? T Wood. And then that right is coming. That piston of a fucking right hand. That would be a mega fight. I'd want to see that, I'd want to see TJ Cody and then GSP versus
Lawler all day.
Yeah.
I just think with the timeline of hearing Robbie change gyms and hearing the USADA thing, and everyone's wondering, where's Robbie? And we know the UFC loves Robbie.
Mm-hmm. And we just saw GSP with his belly sticking out. Did you see all that photos people have been making us think? He was sticking his belly out like everybody can. He still has a six-pack, but he looked in somewhat shape, and they're promoting that fight. The UFC leaked that, or somebody that knew leaked that. It wasn't some crazy thing because it was a weird angle.
I don't think he fights Conor this year. I think this is like 3 years. I think the long game for GSP, he makes his big money on his way out the door regardless, and I think deep down he thinks he can beat Conor. Mm-hmm. But I think the biggest fight for Conor is... You have the Nate Diaz trilogy, but Conor's a fighter. If he wants to continue to make money...
I think his biggest fight is the Mayweather. I think the way that's been... It's the Mayweather. That's his biggest fight. But that's a fight.
But yeah,
that's the most
totally
money. If it's for money, that's the biggest fight.
No, that's happening regardless. That's happening first. That's actually...
Exactly.
I think he's training
That's what I think that's happening too.
I already think that's happening. I just think that would be the GSP timeline for GSP retiring. Is waiting out that fight... You know, because GSP's only going to fight big fights from here on out.
Agreed.
And so is Conor.
Agreed.
And everybody wants to see that eventually. And I think Conor keeps... I feel like when Conor, if he fights Floyd, whatever happens, I don't know if he boxes again. I don't think all of a sudden, like, now he's going to fight Manny, and now he's going to fight... So the whole thing is him just getting his bell rung in the ring till, for 12 rounds. I don't think that's smart. I think he has a better opportunity of keeping his marbles in place if he goes back to UFC.
I definitely am excited to see what's going to be happening in all these little things because I think there is valid speculation that we have. And I think the fact that GSP was even taking photos with gloves and his shirt off means that he's training for a fight. So it could be one of those things that
I don't
might
think
be
it's
leaking
Bisping at
soon.
all. I just think they knew Bisping would put on a good press conference for the fight that was happening.
I think GSP, after the press conference, was like, oh shit, I don't want to fight that guy. And then he's like, I never signed anything. And then he's like, I'll fight Woodley. Okay, let's just fight Woodley. Like, I think he wants to forget. Because it's the size discrepancy is way too big.
Oh,
way
I think
too
another
big.
reason you're right about Woodley is because didn't Dana White come out like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago and says, all right, T. Woods, you're going to get your money fight.
It's GSP. It's going to be GSP.
You heard it here first, people.
So, other UFC verse stuff going down as far as any other topics.
Lobov wants Duho next.
Oh, you can't ask for a fight after you lost.
I agree.
You
it goes
gotta-
against the rules.
Yeah,
But Duho lost too. And just calling it out puts the bug in the UFC ear all of a sudden. That is a silly fight. What does Lobov want? But I just think he lets Conor bang him up every day. I just think he's... What is he, a fighting partner?
There's a point where Lobov can't just have a ultra shitty record and be Conor's boy, where eventually UFC is going to be like, no, dude, we can have a bunch of not shitty fighters because he's not a bad fighter, but a guy with bad record. And not that Choi, he can't not beat Choi, but there's many other fights that he could do much better in.
Choi, I think, could knock him out.
I could see that actually happening because every time, what scares me with Lobov every time is how low his goddamn hands get, and he does it regularly. And that little Astro Boy has got a little pep in his step. That dude will hit you with a fucking cross that'll cross your damn eyes. And Lobov, there's a point where he's not going to be able to take all those kicks and heels and shins to the face, and he's not the youngest cat in the barn right now.
I think we're about to see the most dangerous thing on the planet happen because Ngannou just moved to Las Vegas to further training. So I feel like for the first time, this guy might be going to a camp to really utilize the type of fighter he could potentially be.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like,
the
he
Predator.
is so young.
It's going to be such... his career is one of the most blossoming ones that is going to be fun 10 years down the line. Be like, remember when he came into the UFC? Remember when these guys didn't know what they got into and Bayless's eyes swole bigger than his head? Like... Ngannou the Predator.
I feel like everyone I always knew. I feel like I'd be like, I never voted against him.
I don't know if I necessarily ever picked against him. Maybe the first time. Only against Henrique did I ever pick against Ngannou because I thought the takedown defense was not going to be there. He got taken down and got back up, and after I saw Ngannou get up the first time against Henrique, I said, this guy's going to go somewhere because that's all you need to do as a heavyweight is be able to stand back up on your feet, and that dude's so fucking big that he has a good technique. But he's just... doesn't matter if he hits you with a pinky. He's breaking that goddamn tooth out of your mouth. Like,
I love him.
He's a monster. Monster. So, did you hear that Megan Anderson called out live via Ariel Helwani Christiana Cyborg, and she called in the show and was like, yeah, I love that fight. Let's do it. Did you hear this?
Yes. And Megan Anderson has put in the fucking work
She's
to
a
get
champ.
this fight. She's put
This
in
is
the work.
what Invicta
She's
does.
been to Vegas to try to get a meeting with Dana White or the
Yep.
people from UFC. She's done everything, and I feel like Twitter is making this happen for her. And Chris Cyborg is saying, let's do it. And she even pulled up the rankings, being like, no offense, but Iron Lady's ranked 4th. Like, Christiana Cyborg's 1st, Megan Anderson 2nd.
I love that, and that could be on a pay-per-view right away. That doesn't need to open with Megan Anderson debuting on the undercard on Fight Pass. That can be co-main event. You don't put them on the main event. You put them on a co-main event, and that is going to bring in hardcore. That's a really fun fight that we were hoping to see, and we might see it a lot sooner, because what else do you need? Both ladies are willing to say they're going to fight, and most of the time what we would see with the way it traditionally goes, they're going to give Anderson 1 to 2 women. But the division is so lacking, and I feel like Anderson is proven in Invicta, which is traditionally the feeder league.
They could do a build-up. They could do a good build-up for it. With Chris,
easy.
She's done a main event with 2 no-names, or except for Leslie Smith.
The fun aspect of this fight, now in the instant breakdown, is the brawler that Cyborg's going to come in with this ultra striking and grappling. Anderson's Muay Thai and her ground game is definitely where she's lacking more. Cyborg's going to have the bigger discrepancy in skill in that specific aspect, but I think that what we did see with Joanna Barnes in the kickboxing match that Cyborg lost to Barnes at is that Cyborg has trouble with taller women. Megan Anderson is substantially taller, and she's strong for that size. Like, she looks like she's really well filled out. She cuts from, I think, like 150.
And
maybe
honestly,
a little bit
Megan
more.
Anderson is probably like, you know what, if I have to go, even if I get my ass beat by the monster to be in the UFC,
She
so
said it
be
herself.
She's like, then I'll fight Holly Holmes next.
She was saying on the show herself that that's it, that if she's not in this sport to fight Chris Cyborg, then what is she doing? Like, she's a fighter. Yeah, she wants to fight the best in the world. The best in the world is Christiana Cyborg. There's no women doing that out in the UFC right now.
That's ballsy.
Fuck yeah, it is. Are you fucking kidding me? Like she said herself, she's got a cool accent. She's hot. And she can throw down. And what else would you want? What else does the UFC need? The UFC owns Invicta. All they have to do is tell Shannon Knapp.
That's what Invicta's for.
Yeah, all they have to say is Shannon Knapp, okay, bring her on down. Like, we got the perfect fight for you.
If it doesn't work out, you have a star back that was once UFC star.
But they have to give Megan Anderson at least another
3
fight.
fights.
Yeah,
3 fights.
Exactly.
I think if you fight Chris, you get 3 fights afterwards.
I could see that. I could see that totally. So that's a really fun fight in the near future that hopefully is coming. Did you also hear that potentially Anderson Silva and Yoel Romero confirmed that they're willing to fight each other?
Yes, a few times, and Silva actually says he wants Yoel for the interim or he's done.
We are in an interesting time in the UFC because of the new management, everything that's gone on, the way the people have been getting paid or not getting paid because of whatever, like, people are starting to throw their weight around in ways that we've never seen before, and I really wonder what's going to happen. What do you think is the best thing for Anderson Silva in this situation?
I think he can beat Yoel Romero.
It's a winnable fight for either fighter. I would definitely agree with that.
After watching him with DC, I feel like he can beat Yoel Romero. And the one thing Yoel Romero doesn't have that Anderson Silva has a crazy amount of is cardio. And Anderson's a smart enough guy to get rid of the power. And I also think Yoel's the type of guy that we could see old school Anderson taunting in the ring.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a fun... What else do you need? They agreed to it, and I don't want to see too many people fight Anderson Silva, but I want to see Yoel Romero fight Anderson Silva. Like, ask me anybody else with Anderson Silva, and I'm like, not really.
I agree.
Kevin Gastelum I wanted to see versus Anderson Silva.
I agree. I think the UFC underestimated how much we liked that.
Yeah, that was a really, really fun fight coming up because it was just...
I think when they saw the posters coming out, we were mocking them and how little they thought of Kevin Gastelum, not how little we think of Kevin Gastelum. And I even think this pot charge is bullshit because they wanted to give a bigger fight for Silva.
Uh-huh.
And I think they're underestimating how big Yoel Romero is.
As far as fan base?
Yeah. I think he's an exciting fighter to watch, and I like most of his fights. I want to see Yoel in the cage. He's one of the fighters that I want to see whoever he's fighting. I want to see what's going to happen. He has such antics. He is entertaining.
He is the living embodiment of Tommy Toho.
He is. Really.
He is shoulders and a bald head with a fucking goatee. That's
no gay Jesus.
No for gay Jesus. Don't vote for gay Jesus.
No, listen USA. No for gay Jesus.
I've always loved Yoel Romero since Strikeforce. I've
I'm
been
not a
following
huge
his career.
fan. I don't
always
like
have
him
been.
at all, but he's one of the fighters that I watch just because I think people can beat him. And then I'm like, what? I always vote against Yoel Romero, and I lose a lot.
Yeah.
But it's personal.
Any wrestler, I always tend to side with the wrestlers, and he is one of the best wrestlers to have ever done it. I mean, look back at some of his wrestling tapes, and he does unreal stuff on that mat. Unreal stuff on that mat. It is a pleasure to watch that guy in any type of combat sport. Any other UFC or combat sports
I don't even
related
know what's
stuff?
going on.
Did you hear over the last weekend, this is still in the combat sports arena, that this Joshua versus Klitschko, and people are talking about boxing like it's something again. It was Klitschko got knocked out, which I'm just kind of like, didn't Klitschko lose like a bunch of other fights to Tyson Fury, some guy that was all cocained out and not drinking the water?
Haven't I read that sentence before?
Yeah.
Is that the Mandela effect?
Like, what's going on here? So people are like, oh, this Joshua kid is amazing. I mean, he looks like a brick shit house. This dude's fucking huge. Puncher. He got hurt. I did watch the fight. It was a fun fight only because it went back and forth. They both hurt each other. I feel like Joshua went down early in the first few rounds and came back and fucking knocked Klitschko's head into the up with his buddies cosmonauts up in the spaces. It was just a fun fight. I would recommend a good boxing scrap to watch. Boxing, people are saying we're dead, but supposedly they filled out this arena with 90,000 people. It was a soccer stadium, and it was packed. The angles of the cameras that showed it looked like a freaking, what is that, Coldplay live show. It was a field of people for this one boxing match. And I think that with the Mayweather and Conor talk, like,
I don't think boxing will ever be dead if the right people are involved.
I think it's a traditional sport for us as well. Globally. As a world sport. Almost.
It's a gentleman's sport in
Yeah.
a weird way. Just to stand up.
Put your dukes up.
Yeah, no kicking, no scratching, no pulling hair. Put your dukes up and let's throw. It's kind of like
But-
you can hit in the face, you can hit the body, you can't hit him in the back. You can't hit him in the back of the head.
You can't throw elbows.
No,
I mean,
nothing dirty.
I guess it
gentlemen.
is a
Pick your weapon.
I
Pick
guess
your weapon. It's more of that as opposed to
Yeah.
like, no, this shit's a free for all.
And that's where I'm a goddamn savage, and I want to see that heel part of your fucking foot in somebody's eye socket. That's what I want to see. I want to see your goddamn
I don't want to
elbow in your lip. I just love the creativeness of
I want
what
the best
could
of
be
your
a weapon.
village to fight the best of our village.
Yeah, and
And
no
then
rules other than you
winner
can't
fights
bite.
the best of the next village,
Yes.
and winner fights the best of the next, and then it's Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I'm throwing salt in his eyes. I wouldn't do that. Yes, I would.
It ain't cheating if you don't get caught, and I don't think he ever got caught.
No. What he did by Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Well, he ended up catching a goddamn. Did he do the splits and hit? No, he didn't do the splits and hit him in the dick. Did he like side heel to the face? I think that's what it was.
Something,
A
jump beautiful.
yeah, a
slow
spinning heel,
motion.
or it was like some sort of hook kick right to the fucking chops, and he was
Yeah,
out.
it was a different movie where he did the split and the punch in the ball.
What the god? That was the quest.
But same face.
Yeah. Oh
Same
god.
face he made for
That-
both.
For every movie he was ever in, same face.
I feel like you can just say that in life, though, Jean-Claude Van Damme face, and people know. People know what that means.
So the other night, me and my girl were going, and I had that Jean-Claude Van Damme face.
Yeah, you would know. You'd
You
be
would
like,
know.
oh, shit.
Oh, damn, they got it. Did she get a heel to the face?
No, but she got salt in the eye.
Boom, boom.
Boom.
Damn. Now listen to this podcast. So, other combat sports
Don't let your
stuff.
children listen to Lesbo and the Bean, or you're a horrible parent. Unless you don't care if they hear cussing and
Fight talk
fight talk.
and other worldly talk. What else is going on in the stratosphere? There was some crazy shooting. Some dude shot himself. That was horrible. Poor people. That happened about a week ago.
I don't even know.
Exactly. There's another shooting every other day now. It's just like...
I don't know how I feel about the whole thing.
Yeah. If you want to look at it, it's a lot of information that we get thrown at us. And maybe that's why I watch UFC so much. Because I'm like, I don't need to listen to all this bullshit. I can just watch one sport and not have to worry about crazy stuff. Do you remember the fighter Jordan Parsons?
Yes.
It's going on around a year. I think it's the 5th of this year or 3rd of this year that it was a year since he passed away here in Boca Raton.
Boca Raton.
R.I.P.
A lot of fighters seem to pass in Florida.
Well, when you get run over by a car, it's going to do that. He was hit and run. He was jogging. Dude ran off. I don't know if they ever caught... I don't think they ever caught his... They caught the guy who ran over the heavyweight and killed him. God dang it. I can't think of his name. Freaking bald white guy who did the splits in the robot all the time.
Stipe Miocic.
No. Definitely not him.
He says, I've busted my ass for years and people still don't give me credit. Good. Keep that up. People think I'm going to lose this fight to JDS and I love it. I'm good with that because you doubt me and I'm going to shut you up.
Damn, that's American.
I know. And then at the end of it, and he's like, the UFC doesn't support me because they're racist. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't say that.
I was going to say, that wasn't Tyrone Woodley, was it?
He didn't say that.
That's T. Woods.
I know, it's crazy how many champions that are constantly the underdogs right now.
That's how fun our sport is right now. Like, some people might say it's off, but I think it's the betters and the pros being like, no, you guys don't understand this whole fight game. Like, styles make fights, and every style's evolving.
Too erratic. I just passed another still drama leaked tough clip shows new altercation.
That's where people have been saying in the first 2 shows they blew their load. They blew their load, and they showed the throat grab, and then they showed the other pushing the second episode. I think that this whole season's gonna be that. I think that they didn't leak shit. They're like, you think that throat grab was bad? One of these motherfuckers like grabbed the other one by the dick, and we had to get the fucking camera crew in there or something. Like,
I think so too.
Because they have an ongoing relationship where even TJ, with the congratulations of them,
they didn't like each other when they were at the same camp.
What I was gonna say is that they might have more of a brotherly type of thing going on because they had a couple years together at the prior gym where they got to be. TJ and them have said that they weren't the best of friends, but there's some other dynamic going on because it's different.
I think TJ became the golden boy at the camp, and then
he was the champ. He was the champ.
And he became the champ a lot because of the camp.
People will say though that it was Dwayne when he came in that made that.
Yeah, I agree that it's Dwayne, but it's also, in the facilities and the electricity and the food,
I agree.
The housing,
it was
the
all
money.
favor.
There's like a whole bunch of stuff going on to make a team, like a good team environment, and that helps a champion become a champion. And then I think there's this young kid that comes in, not a lot of spotlight on him, maybe a little bit, but maybe a little more than TJ was getting even with the belt. Like, think of how quick Cody's star rose because he's a good-looking kid. He says the right things. He's, quiet. And then he's like the outlaw. He's trying really hard to be the bad boy, but he's still kind of a good guy. He's like, he walks a different edge. He wants to be the heel.
Yeah.
But it's not, people aren't, you can't walk in with a kid, Make-A-Wish kid and let him hold the belt and think that it can go any other way. But I also think that there was jealousy inside the camp because regardless of UFC, I think the knockout tape, when that happened, when you're the hot shot and you want all this attention and you're walking around, you're super competitive guy. I think TJ's had little man syndrome his whole life.
Yep. I feel like a lot of those guys at that camp have who was saying that? I feel like Joe Band on his podcast was saying like, oh, these guys are really going at it. It's little man syndrome. They all got it, and you can see it. And
I feel like it's easier to grow up being a little man in California than, I don't know where TJ grew up. But it's just like, yeah, bro, I skate, bro. What's up, man? I surf.
I think they're Cali. Yeah, I think he's Cali.
I don't know if TJ did. I know Faber did. And I know Cody did, but
I know
Cody's not the same little man.
TJ moved to Sacramento and I believe bought a house there, but I don't know if his family was from there. But I think his family wasn't far off. That's why he still went to Cali. But he comes from a family that's super competitive. Like, people say TJ is competitive in everything via Dominic Cruz or a la Dominic Cruz style competitive everything. And TJ will say that he's not even competitive, where his mom is the competitive one in the family. Like, you can't get to the car without it being erased. You can't shop groceries fast enough without, like, there is nothing in their house that their mom doesn't make a competition.
That's how she had to get her kids to clean.
To clean? That's what I think, too. That was a fucking mom that was like, I got 3 boys. These motherfuckers are coming in with money. Like, we're just gonna work. And it turned...
And we're gonna work.
We're gonna turn these little kids into monsters. And they can take direction. And TJ is...
I don't know if I like this side of Cody, though. This hothead.
I don't know if we've ever necessarily... I think it's all brand new. It's all brand new. He hasn't been in it long enough. I don't know.
He's very similar to how TJ probably was.
I do think that...
I think TJ seems like he's grown up.
Like I was saying before with the Team Alpha Males mentality, it could be very one-sided mentality where it could be very bro-ish. And Dwayne Ludwig is a huge pothead. Says that he uses it medicinally all the time. He's in Colorado, and I know he really is a big advocate. When he watches tape, which not many other coaches have talked about it, but I bet people have started to do it, he says where Dwayne Ludwig will watch the tape sober, watch it high, and then sometimes even watch it drunk. All completely different.
All different.
All completely different. And when I partake and get on the YouTubes and break and watch fights and look at tape myself, I do see myself catching different stuff when I'm in a different state of mind. I'm not clicking everything on the goddamn internet. I'm not trying to break my computer, guys. I'm just seeing the fight for what it is from a different point of view, and it helps me focus on the feet more instead of the hands, because everyone wants to see the hands. But what really matters, just like boxing, it's the dance that goes on. It's their feet. Whoever wins those battles in and outside is always going to land the punch.
So much with grappling, so much with their sprawls. They pay so much attention to the upper body and the clinch, but so much of what's going on with the legs, on what kind of stance they're getting or how far apart they're... Yeah, it's all
entries,
matters.
Exits, all of it. It's all wonderful stuff, and we just keep seeing it evolving every day in the UFC.
All right.
Remember to follow us at...
Lesbo and the Bean on Twitter.
Lesbo and the Bean!
.com.